All right, we are live. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 26 of the Books and Bourbon podcast. I'm not joined by my two normal co hosts today. So, Caleb is somewhere in the middle of the ocean on a cruise ship enjoying himself, and David is off in Korea visiting a family. He hasn't been out there for a while, so I'm excited for him to be able to go out there, visit family, take some time to do that. For those of you that are on here watching, drop where you were tuning in from in the comments. We got Avery Romer in the house. Everyone started speaking Spanish all of a sudden. So drop where you're coming from in the comments. I guess it's going to be a Spanish show today, so hopefully my Spanish isn't too rusty. But I'm excited for the guest we have today. So we're bringing on Phil, the Book Peddler. He lives out in New York. He's got his own bookstore out there. He has a YouTube channel. Let me throw up the info on that YouTube channel real fast. There you go, youtube.com at the Book Peddler. Check out his YouTube channel. Give him a subscribe there. We're going to be hearing from him today. His channel has grown a lot over the past year, and he talks about his process of owning a bookstore where he sells modern books and he sells older books. And so we're going to kind of dive into that today. It's a topic I've been wanting to dive into more of what it's actually like to own a bookstore. Most of us that are watching right now probably sell used books. We have an online bookstore, but it's something entirely different to have a physical bookstore. So, with that said, Phil, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me, Matthew.
Thank you for being on here.
Absolutely.
So, I want to start off with a question that's a little different than nothing to do with books, but I noticed in a couple of your videos, you've got some pretty good guitar playing skills. When did you pick up the guitar and start that journey?
Well, you're too kind. I just do it for fun. I just taught myself like a couple years ago. I used to
really?
play.
You just had a desire to start playing guitar and picked it up and.
Yeah, so when I play harmonica, that's what I used to play, and I love the sound of guitar, and I'm gonna learn the saxophone soon too. So we'll see how
That's
that
awesome.
goes. Yeah.
Nice. So give the viewers a little bit of info on who you are and what you're kind of doing right now. Then we'll dive a little bit into your backstory because I'm curious how this all kind of got started for you.
All right. Well, my name is Philip Monteleone. I live in upstate New York, run a bookstore called the Book Peddler. Basically, I've always loved reading, always been into books, but liking books and the business is a different thing. You know what I'm saying? So what kind of happened was it was just opportunity. I had a chance. I was laid off of work, and I had an opportunity to purchase about 15,000 books in one go. And so I took a shot. I got a bunch of buddies together, and it was a huge storage unit filled with books. So we got the trucks, the trailers, and then I went back the next day, and my mom and I worked for 9 hours clearing out the rest of it. Now, I had no idea about the business itself. All I knew is I liked them. I knew people did make money doing it. So I figured, I could figure out how to do it as well. I mean, you got guys.
So you'd never sold books up to this point?
No, not at all. So, it was definitely quite an eye-opening experience. Every guy that I talked to that I would go and visit with who owned a bookstore, they all told me not to do it. And so, real encouraging, huh?
Yeah. Well, either they're trying to keep away competition or they know something. One of the two.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I understand what they're saying. It's a very difficult business in certain ways to have a physical location, and it's quite a learning curve. But I get what they're saying. I started questioning my sanity after the purchase, put it that way. So.
Nice.
But.
So taking it back a little bit, were you always entrepreneurial? Were you always trying to start your own business or be self-employed, or is this something that came a little later on in life?
Well, I don't like working for anybody. So, I mean, I kind of just fell into it. I didn't expect to be doing this right now. Most people who know me would have never figured that I'd be doing this. But, yeah, I've always kind of had that type of entrepreneurial, spirit in me. Most people in my family have their own businesses, have been successful. But I mean, I'm more so I created a job for myself, really. So I'm like self-employed right now. That's how I say it. But I'm trying to create a system that'll give me more freedom, basically.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a slave to myself and my business, basically, now. So
That's awesome.
I'm
Yeah.
working
So,
towards
yeah. So when you got that storage unit, you started going through those books. I'm assuming you started selling them, seeing you could actually make some money with those books. How did you go from that to like, I want to actually start a bookstore and invest a lot of time into this? Was that very soon after? Or did it take a long time of selling before you kind of happened upon the bookstore you're in now?
it. Well, basically, again, that was an opportunity that came up. My dad convinced me to do a brick and mortar. He goes, "You like doing this?" I say, "Yes." Well, why don't you open up a shop? And he didn't know a lot about Smithville. There's not a lot of readers here, and the population is extremely small. I say I don't want to hack on Smithville, but I kind of opened a bookstore in a literate town. So, but anyhow, so it just kind of happened. Um, Started building the shelves, um, figuring some things out, and the online process of putting my stuff online was very slow. I didn't really take it seriously until a couple years ago, and I'm learning a ton. I'm trying to grow that right now.
So when you started going through that storage unit, did you start by looking up all the books online, or were you going after more of the modern books, thinking they're newer, so they must be worth more, or were you more attracted right away to the older type antiquarian type books? Where did you kind of start down that journey?
Um, I've always been attracted to the antiquarian book market. I was just looking up everything. I really had no idea about the market, sell through rates, all this different kind of stuff. I was completely clueless going in. I mean, I basically to start this, I cashed in my bonds. It's crazy, but I was like, I'm gonna go all in and we're gonna give
Yeah.
it a shot. And it's either gonna work out or it's not. So with that first unit, my knowledge was very minuscule, and I learned that quickly. Um, so then I had to start investing in myself, basically, in trying to understand this business and how to operate it and what's worth money. So
Yeah. So what did you lean on to kind of get the knowledge to start this business? Because I know starting a bookstore is not something there's a ton of content on out there. There's a lot of stuff about selling on Amazon or eBay, but starting a physical bookstore, I haven't seen a whole lot of information on that online. So where did you kind of start getting this information on what you needed to do to be successful with a physical bookstore?
man, I'll tell you, trial and error. I mean, mostly I didn't have a mentor. Now I have a couple people that I consider mentors that have helped me significantly. They like what I'm doing. They want to see me be successful, and so it's a beautiful thing. But it was a lot of trial and error, and it took a lot of time to get established. A lot of people. I was talking with you earlier. A lot of people have this romantic idea about a bookstore, like all you do is sit around and read all day and drink coffee. That is not the case whatsoever. It's more work. I've done more. It's more work than you could imagine. The only way you're going to know is when you go for it. Moving books constantly, processing, researching. There's a lot to it, and you have the bookstore, so you have your customer base, and now more so I'm set up so I'm shopping for people basically, and then you have the online, and it's around here it's like hunting, fishing, firearms is big, local history, so I'm going for that stuff. Antiquarians more the online market. People aren't really always coming in dropping big money on one of those books. Big learning curve. If I had to do it over again, I would have liked to have apprenticed under someone to begin with, for sure. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
Starting.
So it sounds like you know what your market locally is looking for as far as books go. When you go to find new inventory, are you specifically just looking for things that would do well in your store, or are you getting everything you know can sell and then just only putting the few that you know will do well in your area in the store and everything else you're storing somewhere else to sell online?
Yeah, I'm very selective when I go out now. I used to just buy everything, take everything, but I do both. So I was visiting with another bookseller. It's called Midtown Scholar Books. Eric and Kathy run it in Harrisburg, PA. And when I was there, I'm now, because I know this customer base, I'm very confident to go in and buy on behalf of my customers, basically. And and then when I'm at an estate sale or something, I'll recognize names like that go quick, like say the Foxfire set. Now there's no barcodes on the Foxfire set. I sell them rapidly when I get them. I know that's going to sell in store and or online. Eric Sloan books sell like crazy. Occult material. I kind of have an idea and a grounding, and it just comes from handling the material and seeing the sales constantly.
So I'm assuming that's one of the biggest pieces to doing this successfully, as far as especially the antiquarian books, is knowing what to look for, because it's easy to have an app, something like Scout IQ, scanning a barcode of a modern book and just knowing instantly based on the data. But a lot of the books you're dealing with, like you said, don't have barcodes. Some of them probably predate ISBNs. Has it been difficult acquiring that knowledge of what's valuable and what's not? Or have you kind of caught on to certain trends that you're pretty successful now picking out older books that actually have value and ones that are old but still worthless, as far as monetarily worthless, not from a reading standpoint?
Yeah, I guess there's a number of things to say about that. When I'm looking at some of these antiquarian books or whatnot, yeah, some of them are worthless. There are a lot that aren't worth a lot. But it's almost like the quality of how the book was made. If you have an idea on publisher or something of historical relevance, there is a lot that goes into. I'll give you a quick example though, in terms of gathering knowledge before you even go into a pick or an auction or whatever it may be. I had a Mark Twain first edition book collection come in years ago, and one of them was The Prince and the Pauper. It was a first edition, first state binding, but the text was second state. So there were 3 corrections in that text. That devalued the book by like $800. Now, which is huge. Now, if you go and buy this book and you're like, oh, this is a first edition, I'm going to do good. That's $1,200 in the bank. You better know the different points that of requirements that meet that to be what it actually they say it's going to be. Yes, you gotta do your research and take your time and invest in yourself. Basically, sometimes though, I go in because I just have a feeling on it. I don't know how else to explain it. A couple other people have said the same thing. They just know inherently that there is some value in that book for whatever reason. I mean, if I'm going in blind, sometimes I can't always look everything up. So
yeah. Well, I'm sure the more you do it, like you said, the more your eyes kind of become attuned to what might be valuable and what has value. And especially, I'm guessing certain topics have a lot more value than other topics. Or from what I've been told, the more specific an older book is, normally the more people are willing to pay for it, because it wasn't mass produced. It's something there was a limited quantity of. Is there a book you ever read that kind of went over the different ways to evaluate older books? Like you said, knowing if it's the first print. Well, first printing's easy, second printing, but you said there's different things you're looking for. Like there's been changes with that one book, even though it was a first edition. Is there a guide to kind of how to read that title page to figure out what's actually there?
Well, what I recommend is, like, I have a book I'm looking at right now. It's called Collected Books, the Guide to Values, the 98 edition. ABC's of book collecting. There is different material that you can read to get ground. There's bibliographies. There's I like going through old catalogs of booksellers, and sometimes in there it'll have it broken down. Like if you're into modern first editions or something, it'll have a breakdown as to why it is what it is. I mean, from reputable dealers out there. In terms of sources, that's the kind of stuff that I really kind of started with. And you just got to be careful and be aware that not everything is always what it seems to be. That's all. So I hope I answered that.
No, yeah, absolutely. So you started this bookstore. I'm guessing it was fairly easy at first to fill it up, since you said you were taking everything pretty much you saw.
Yeah.
Over time, how have you kind of developed your strategy for finding new books? And also, how long do you typically keep things on the shelf before scrapping it or giving it away or donate, whatever else you need to do with those books? How do you keep that inventory fresh and moving and know when to move on?
Basically, I'm trying to refine the shop more and more towards the antiquarian market, so it is going to be taking on a new look, but that takes time, money, and everything. So like moving forward, I'm actually this weekend I'm trying to acquire a larger building for strictly online processing and you know, shipping and everything like that. I kind of forget the first half of your question. I'm sorry. I kind
Yeah,
of
so when you guys started, you said you were buying pretty much everything. You said you've kind of refined what you're looking for now. How long do you kind of keep things on the shelf and know when to transfer and go out and get more inventory, and know kind of how to keep those books moving? Or do you leave stuff on the shelf until it eventually sells?
everything sells at some point. I I leave it up if there are some sections that are really slow moving and they're just taking up retail space, I start thinning them out and putting up, you know, more desirable stuff in its place. That's basically what I do. There's no real um time limit on them. If it's a good book, it's a good book. But the stuff in my shop, there's a lot that's online. So it's up there as well. So I get to deal with with the world market and not just depend on business coming in, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So
absolutely. So you're using your bookstore as your warehouse currently, then, right? You're fulfilling orders straight from the shelf. You've got them. Do you have them ordered in such a way you know where everything is? Are you
yeah.
tagging them, or you just know the different sections of your store? And if something is ordered, you know roughly where to go pick that order and ship it from.
Yep, I know the different sections of my store. I have them labeled. I have the shelving labeled, and so when the book sells, you look at that label, and you can go right to the shelf and find it. Basically, I don't put a sticker on the book or anything like that, and I write up on the top end page, basically a little code. So if it sells in the store, I know where I got it, I know the return, and I delete it off the site. Basically, that's how I do it.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
yeah.
That's a good system because I know a lot of people that have warehouses and maybe want to do a bookstore, or people don't have warehouses. They maybe want to go. And I like that you're using it for multiple purposes. Like you have the bookstore, it works and functions as a bookstore, but yet all the inventory is still listed online, and you can pull and pick orders from your store just like that. I think that's pretty cool. If someone's wanting to go after more of the antiquarian style books and learn that kind of market, where have you found the most success finding those books? Is it estate sales you're typically finding all these at, or is it a bunch of different sources you're always monitoring to pick up new finds?
I'm always kind of monitoring, but to be completely honest with you, a lot of the times when I get these books in, and this is a benefit of having a brick and mortar store, they come into me. Actually, it's the private calls and getting into the private libraries, um, and getting first eyes on them. That's where a lot of the stuff is coming from. I kind of tend to stay away from auctions a little bit. I've had some bad experiences with those. Estate sales have been good to me. I have found good material, but for the most part, it's individuals calling me up and they want me to check out their books. They bring them to me now. I really don't have to go out and source that much at all because every weekend I'm getting a bunch of new material in. So that's how I'm doing it.
Yeah, I think that really kind of goes to speak about the power of branding and kind of branding yourself as like the book guy. Cause I'm sure having that physical store people can walk into, the online presence where people know you're a bookseller and you actually own a bookstore, brings a lot of validation, and people remember you when they're trying to go and have a book they want to sell or donate, etc. Versus the average seller that just has a warehouse that no one ever sees, no one ever goes into. They're not attracting that business like you are. So I could see how that bookstore would be a great front for the business to be able to get those new customers in for the other parts of your business.
It is. It's a trust. It's like more of a professionalism in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why it works or has been working for me anyhow. So
So, question, it sounds like you really, really like what you're doing with your bookstore. It sounds like you've got kind of a passion, especially for those antiquarian style books. If suddenly, let's just pretend you had 10 times the revenue instantly you have right now, what parts of your business would you invest that into? Would you upgrade your space and make it a bigger bookstore? Would you focus more on the online side of it? What kind of changes do you think you'd make if suddenly you had an increase of revenue?
I would probably try to get an increased space. Would well, I guess I'm going for that right now.
Yeah.
I want to keep trying to refine the shop. Um, just quality, quality, quality. That's what I keep going for. I got beautiful books, but I want to attract try to attract more so the higher end buyers, the bigger collectors. I mean, to me, that's where that's where the money is, if you can attract that kind of person. So
Yeah.
refining the shop in a bigger space, that's what I would do.
Do you see your bookstore eventually kind of becoming something large that people actually come into, sit down, read, kind of one of those? I see a lot of bookstores, especially as they get larger, they kind of turn into a lounge and bookstore together. I'm sure you've kind of seen that, where it's like there's couches spread out, people can read books, they can go and select different things.
Mhm.
Or are you more thinking of it from the standpoint of selling online and just having a good way to display all these books and then be able to sell them online? Or what's your kind of vision for that?
Probably the second point. I really don't care for, I mean, look, there's guys that come in and they want to hang out and riff. But to have a bunch of people lounging around all day, I mean, I got work to do. So I really, time is important, and I'd rather do the second. So
Yeah. So you're building a store, not a lounge, is your goal.
I'm not interested in having a coffee shop in it. That does work for some people. I mean, but I don't think I have to really worry about that, because I'm in the middle of nowhere. If I was in a college town, that might be a little bit more desirable to do. But
Yeah. Were you always a big reader? Is that what kind of spiked your interest in this once you got that storage unit, or did getting that storage unit turn you on to books in general?
I was always a reader. My parents always had books. They read to us when we were kids. What was funny though is they wanted to hold me back from first grade. They said I couldn't read, which I could. I just wasn't interested in reading what they were giving me. I've always enjoyed history, and was definitely a voracious reader. I lost interest for a period of time, but thank God I got it back. And so yeah, I always have always enjoyed reading. Absolutely. I don't get to do it as much as I would like now, because now I got to sell this stuff. That's one tough thing I'll say, Matthew, is disconnecting from what comes in. I mean, a lot of stuff I'd love to keep, but I can't compete with my customers. So it's tough.
Well, I'm sure it helps the business go on, but it's also, it could be difficult loving the products that you're selling. So you don't want to let them go, especially I'm sure when you get those really rare finds in that you get really excited about. And then you're like, oh, I gotta sell this, type thing.
It's not a museum though. So you got to move them down the road. But
absolutely. Real fast, while we're in the middle of this, I want to give away another hat. We have some cool Scout IQ hats. I'll actually send you one as well.
Thanks, man.
But whoever asks the best question in the comments during the rest of this live stream, at the end, I'll have Phil tell me which question he thought was the best, and that person will win a free Scout IQ hat. These are some really high quality leather patch hats, and so you guys will like these. So in the comments, leave a question for Phil, anything about his business, the bookstore, owning a bookstore, any of those type of questions. Throw those in the comments. At the end, I'll have him select someone to get a free hat there. So if someone is going to, you said you had some luck with estate sales. Let's go back to that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's going out, they see an estate sale, when you walk into somewhere, is there specific things you're looking for right away that you found success with? Or do you just go through everything in the entire estate sale piece by piece? What's your kind of strategy when you approach that?
What I do is I'm gathering information beforehand. I'm calling the estate sale person who runs it. If you can get in earlier, great. But I'm basically like back engineering the pictures that I see, so I know where to go to, what room to go to, the layout, because it does get competitive, at least out in some of the areas I've been in. And I try to make sure I have somebody on hand with me to help me out. Again, I'm not knocking scanners by any means. You guys do well and everything. But what I've always said is sometimes the scanners will pass up books that it's almost unbelievable. Like I was down in St. Petersburg, Florida, at an estate sale. So I did all my research. I knew the type of material. I knew it had great potential to being good, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And they passed up some of these books that I sold for $500. I mean, they might have had 4 bags and maybe they hit that number or something, but it didn't have a barcode. But I could tell just by the quality of the binding and the stamping on it. If they just took one extra second to look at it, they could have had that book. They all went past it, you know. So when I approach an estate sale, I'm gathering information and researching what I can, and then I go if I think it's worthy, I go in on it. So
yeah,
that's how I do it.
That really resonates with me because I feel like I've been that guy that I'm scanning through everything. I'm sure I've passed by some great finds before, because if it doesn't have a barcode or an easily typable ISBN, it's something I'd normally pass by if I'm going through and scanning through sections, for just the speed and efficiency's sake. But then having people like you on the show and some other guests we've had that deal in these antiquarian type books, you see how much value some of these books can have and some of the things to look for that if I had gone back, I'm sure there's tons of those that I've passed over the years of scanning books. But yeah, I think it's good for people, even if they're scanning, like you said, to have some knowledge of what could be valuable, what to look for. That way, something does pique your interest when you're scanning through and you see something. Hey, this could have some value to it. A while back, Caleb and I had the chance to go through a collection of books. There was a gentleman, his father had passed away. His father had been collecting books for a long time in Springfield, Missouri. So he didn't know anything about books. His dad had passed away. So he went to Springfield, and his dad had this big kind of warehouse he had purchased to store all of his books. He found us online, had us come out to kind of go through them. And Caleb and I, like I said, we go through barcodes. We look at ISBNs, and this collection was huge, probably over 100,000 books in this one warehouse, but most of them were pre-barcode, pre-ISBN. They were older books you could tell he was going after deliberately. And I just knew there was so much value in all of those. We just had no idea how to pick out which ones were actually valuable and which ones weren't with so many. So we actually had another guy we were able to video chat and show him some books. We didn't go through all of them, nowhere near all of them, but he was able to instantly, like you said, be able to see something and say, grab that one, pass on that one, grab that one type thing. And it's just so cool to see people that have developed that skill set like you have to be able to pick up on those things versus just relying on technology to get you through it.
And did he pick out some gems? Was he pretty accurate?
Did, absolutely. Yeah, he picked out some really good gems, and some of the more expensive stuff we gave back to that guy for him to be able to keep and just save for himself, because he wanted to keep a little bit of his father's collection. But obviously with 100,000 books, he maybe took like 15, 20 of them. He's not keeping the entire collection. So there was still a ton we were able to sell on consignment. And as far as I know, there's still a lot of books sitting in that warehouse because it was extremely cheap. I think it was a large warehouse. I had a bathroom, everything else like that. I think it was like $250 a month. He said he was paying for it because he'd owned it for so long. He'd had the lease for forever. So I think he's just kept up that lease on that building. And a lot of those books, I'm pretty sure, are still in there. So I don't know, maybe sometime we can return there.
Wow.
But yeah, so that was cool. That's where I really got my interest peaked in these older books of what's possible and what you see out there. What do you see, shifting gears just a little bit, as far as the way the industry is trending for books? When you look at the future and just your bookstore, how it's been, do you see books going down, or do you see there being more of a need for smaller bookstores like you that are specialized and able to offer something a little different than people get in the online shopping?
I see it going up and maintaining. I mean, I do know that a lot of there's not as many bookstores as there used to be, okay? But people are still buying. There's always going to be collectors out there. And it's still strong. I think that there's certain material that you might see, even if you want to speculate a little bit, that is going to, like, if you look at certain material, it's always maintained or gone up. If you're dealing with a historical piece like a Lewis and Clark first edition 2-volume set, that's always keep going up. I mean, a Wizard of Oz first edition. You know, these markets seem to still be pretty stable to me anyhow. I see more people every year coming in, young and old. So you know, looking at the future, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be fine. I mean, if it's not, I guess we're all kind of screwed, but
yeah.
You know.
No, like this, you're pretty optimistic then about the future of it. I guess your industry kind of focusing on older books is a little more immune to what's happening, I guess, on a broader scale, because as you said, those keep getting more, they're rare right now, and they'll continue to be rare as time goes on, even more so. Whereas those that are just going out scanning ISBN books, if the market goes down, it's whoever's just most efficient that wins that game. It's not, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes like the Amazon could be a real race to the bottom, you know. So yeah, I gravitate more towards the earlier stuff, and I think that market is going to maintain strong. So
yeah,
I follow the auctions; they seem to still be doing pretty well.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've thought about this. I'm assuming you probably have at some point in time, but one of the unique things I've seen with people that own physical bookstores is that unlike an online Amazon or eBay business, which are difficult to sell unless you just sell the inventory you have, a physical bookstore is a business that people are looking to buy and that people do buy. Is your goal to eventually sell your business, to build it to a point where you can actually sell it? Or is your goal just to build it and you're enjoying what you're doing right now?
Yeah, that's one thing that actually a lot of book dealers, there's a lot of older ones. I'm one of the youngest guys I know that have a physical location. They don't have an exit plan. So I am trying to build it in a way to be desirable for when I'm had enough for me to be able to get out. So build up my clientele list, the inventory, you know, the real estate and everything, and make it more desirable for someone to come into sell it. That eventually at some point, but I am planning for that in those ways, because some point I am going to be 70 or something if I make it, and then I'll need an exit plan. I've just realized a lot of these guys don't have one. So.
No, I think that's really, really important. I was reading a book, you probably like it, a while ago, called The Exitpreneur. Where it's basically talking about that. It's talking about how so many people run businesses and they have no exit plan at all. They've never even thought about it. Where in some way, shape, and form, you will always exit your business, whether it's you die and someone has to take it over, or whether you eventually sell it. Whatever it is, you will exit your business. And so building it with that in mind can drastically change how you do business and what it could sell for at the end. So I love that. I'm sure a lot of people have no exit plan, but reading that book really piqued my interest into building for the exit from the start, even if it is when you're 70, to kind of have that in mind. I think that's really, really cool. I like seeing that.
I'm gonna have to check that out for sure.
Yeah, Exitpreneur. Like I'm trying to think of what the author's name is. If you look at that title, I don't have it next to me. Normally I have it next to me here, but Exitpreneur. I'm blanking out on the author's name right now, but it was a great book. Let me throw some questions. We've got some questions rolling in here. If you're up for it, I'll throw them on the screen for you. Let me go back to the beginning here. All right, here's one from Casey. What is one thing that your antiquarian buyers expect the mass market buyers don't?
You better know your condition. That's big. And be thorough with it. I just, if it has imperfections or something, you got to list it. I think condition when it comes to the older books is very important. It'll also make your listings faster. You got to know what you're looking at, but you don't want people to get mad. They're spending good money. And so if there's a defect or anything, or if it's a different state, you got to get it down. I mean, you don't want to deal with returns all day. Take the extra time and do your research. I would say that is the big thing. What you say it is, it better be what it is. That's what I think.
Yeah. No, I'd imagine people would not be very satisfied if they're spending $800 in a book to have the condition be different than they were expecting versus the average mass market they're buying for $8 and it's used type thing.
Yeah.
Right here, someone says, how do you deal with people's sentimental attachments to their books when you buy from private collections? Do you find it frustrating when people waste your time? I know some people can be very attached to their collections. I'm interested if you've run into that.
Oh yeah, some people have wasted my time early on, so I just got to make sure that they are they're ready to sell, because and I try to break it down for them. I mean, I get it. Like, people have been, they're their parents' collection, or they've been collecting these books, and it's sad for them. But we're all gonna die. You can't take it with you. I mean, I approach it gentlier than
Yeah.
that. But I'm gonna find your book a good home, and it's gonna be appreciated. And they like hearing that, and it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna offer a fair price, and we go from there. Some people, though, you got to be careful. They'll be looking for a quote from you, and
Yeah.
they're going to shop it around. I'm not interested in playing that game. It's happened to me a couple times. And then I get on the phone with somebody, cursing about how irritated I am about this because I spent this long, with you, and you weren't really a motivated seller. So
Yeah.
you learn how to deal with it in a particular way the longer you do this.
Yeah.
So.
No, yeah, definitely. I one time went to someone's house to pick up a private collection. And I knew it was a bad idea right when I walked in the door because she showed me the first row of books. There's a bunch of cookbooks,
uh,
and she's like, "This one I paid $35 for,
yeah.
so I could sell it for 20. This one I paid," and these were like old cookbooks she'd had forever. But she remembered what she paid for each one and what she wanted for each one. I was like, I don't think this is
uh,
probably going to work out.
I'll tell you, I get irritated sometimes. People will send me like a list of their books and their research that they did and what it's listed at. And it's so I just like I'm holding my head. I go, I don't even want to look through this because 99% of the time it's unrealistic what they're asking for. I
Yeah,
mean, and it's almost like you got to kind of educate them a little bit. Books take time to sell. These are not. I'm not. Sometimes I'll just say I'm not even interested in these, but maybe a couple of those, So that it could be frustrating.
yeah, certainly. All right, so another one for you. What's the most rare or expensive book you've sold? Do you have something that comes to mind?
I mean, I sold a really nice set last year. It was a Knights of Malta, 17 something. Sold that for 1,800. So that was a nice sale. My average sale per book on my site is $40, but I do sell 500, 800,000 dollar books. I mean, they don't happen every day, but that's one that comes to mind. I sold a magazine for 1,800.
A
Uh,
magazine? That's pretty crazy.
yeah, it was a Roger. I'll briefly tell you.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
want to hear about that. I didn't know they could sell for that much. Well, yeah.
oh, I love magazines. This is one reason why I like using eBay too, because you can bundle certain books and magazines, and I sell them very well,
Like
actually.
just a collection of the same type of magazine basically over a period of time?
Yeah, yep. Small farming magazines, you name it, vehicle ones. But this one was a Time Life magazine, and it had Roger Staubach on the front cover when he won the Heisman. Well, they did a recall on him because JFK was assassinated during this time, and that's when they put out the JFK one. So this thing was sitting in the corner of my shop. I would have gave the thing away. Thank God I looked it up, and I couldn't believe it. It sold within a week for $1,800. They did a recall. There's like 16 known to be in existence.
16?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
That's
that's
it.
crazy.
So yeah, and I mean, there's some magazines. What is it? The George magazine. Uh, those are pretty good. They're, like in every collection, if you know what to look for, particular one, there's usually something that will fetch some pretty good cash. So
Yeah.
I like the magazines.
I wonder how many people have that magazine sitting in their house and have no idea how much it's worth. It's just something they've always had sitting in the corner. I'm sure that happens all the time.
Oh yeah,
Before
sure.
we jump into other questions, we've got quite a few actually building up here, so I'll have to soon. But one question I had for you is I noticed on your channel a while ago, you closed down your shop, it sounded like, for the winter to go travel and do some things, buy books, sell books. What kind of prompted you to do that? And did it affect your business closing down the shop? How much did that affect you for that period of time?
Well, the winter time is traditionally slow for me in the shop. In shop activities, very slow. It's bitter as heck. Nobody wants to leave their house. And like I had said earlier, I'm trying to create a business that gives me freedom. That's I had to sit down and ask myself, why are you doing this? You're working X amount. uh Enjoy your life a little bit too. I want to get out. I love traveling and buying and selling to these guys on the road. And so when I set up this system, I set it up so that somebody can come in who's ever working for me or doing it, and they can go right to the shelf, pull the book, and ship it. Online sales still did fine. I was able to still list from where I was at, new books that I acquired, and ship from those locations. It worked out fine.
So you had someone at your store that could go and grab things and ship them out?
I did. My mom did.
Oh, your mom did. Awesome.
Her and my dad, I wanted to try this out before I hire somebody to do it. And, you know, obviously I trust my parents, and they did a great job. My mom shipped so fast. I mean, I feel pathetic. I can't even do it. I don't know how she does it, but, and she does a really good job. So they both, helped me during the winter when it came to that. And I know now that it can work, you know,
Yeah.
it'll work. And there's certain points I got to refine a little bit. But I'll do it. And then next time I'm ready to travel, I'm out of here, you know? So
you don't have any employees at the moment though, right?
no, I've tried out multiple people. One, it was during COVID, was excellent, beyond excellent, but she had a really good job and she didn't want to leave it. It's kind of tough. Like a lot of my friends that do their own business, they're having the same type of troubles finding people that actually want to work, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, the labor issues, are
yeah.
real.
Yeah,
I'm assuming,
is.
especially in a small town, sometimes to find labor is even more difficult. Yeah.
It is. And I mean, some of the older people that want to help me out, I mean, this might sound funny to you. I was telling my uncle, they don't own computers. Some
Yeah.
don't even own phones. And I can't teach them how to use. I barely know how to use a computer.
How to use the technology in addition to the job. Yep.
Yeah, it's like witchcraft, you know. It's like, what am I? It's crazy. But you know, so hopefully very soon, if I acquire this other building, I'm gonna really pound the street and find somebody that I can hire in there.
Have your mom train them up right and how to do it quickly.
Yeah, I don't know if they'd like that. Mom, nothing's good enough. If I made $1 million, she'd go, you know, you got to pay taxes on that, right? You know,
she wouldn't be your mom if she didn't say stuff like that, right?
Absolutely.
Let's see. I'll jump into a few more questions people have said. So Joel asked, how do you market yourself as the book guy in your area?
I'm a terrible marketer, to be quite honest with you. I'm trying to get a little bit better. Social media is what I've been utilizing. I try to post once a week a special book. I've paid for like Facebook promoted ads where I say, you know, sell me your books. This is why you want to sell me your books. And I can select the demographic in the area, so that goes out. When I started out, I was putting out ads on like Craigslist and going door to door. What a waste of time. I mean,
you were actually going door to door, like asking if people had books they wanted to get rid of type thing?
I did that, but I also was giving them slips with my store information and that I sell and everything, and hitting wealthier areas, you know. So it didn't really
come from that, or did you ever get some good things from those tactics?
I don't think much came from it at all. So if it's not on a phone, it seems like they're not looking at it. So
yeah,
you know. Yeah, there's funny stories, but anyhow, I won't do that again.
All right, another one. What's the best website to research prices of vintage and antique books?
I know it's illustrated. So there's multiple ones. I mean, if you want to pay for a subscription of WorthPoint, that's pretty good. You can see past auctions like on Live Auctioneers. If you want to be a member of that, you can see price results to get you grounded. If you're having trouble finding something, like I had a book that I couldn't find anything on, so I reached out to, like, I guess you call it a colleague, and he helped me out with it. You can use like WorldCat to see if there's any in the library systems. You just gotta make sure you got the right information. ABE Books is pretty good. But yeah, I would say those sites are pretty solid. The eBay advanced search, it's so. I mean, I don't necessarily recommend it. I'll have though like 6 pages pulled up with some of these books sometimes and go through them. That's what I'll do.
Yeah. Well, that was the next question right there. Is eBay a reliable source for looking it up? Because I'm sure a lot of people, that's what instantly comes to their mind is check it on eBay.
Yeah, sometimes, but some of the eBay sellers are like flybys, so they again, some of the information might not be correct on there, so you got to really be critical as to what you're looking at and what you have.
Yeah. Avery says Joe Valley. That's the author of the Exitpreneur, the book I was mentioning earlier there. Yeah.
Hey, and I want to say to Romer there, thank you for connecting me with Matthew. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Man.
Thanks, Avery, for making this connection. He's back in here. He says he just looked it up. So he didn't know that off the top of his head. He could have just gone with it and said he did. But yeah, he said he looked it up. So yeah,
cool,
thanks
bro.
for making that connection, Avery. Avery does have an event coming up in Miami. When is it? If you're still in the comments there, Avery, tell me the date of your event. So for people wanting to go to a booksellers event, Avery hosts a Miami booksellers event at the beginning of each year. I believe it's towards the end of February this year. It's a great event to go to. It's probably one of the biggest bookseller events there really are. I think he's hoping to have around 150 sellers in the room there. There's going to be some online arbitrage people as well and some private label people. He tends to have a good mix of people there. But check out Miami 2023. Check out Avery Romer's page, Romer the Romer, to get more information on that. But that'll be a great event. I'll be there. Caleb will be there. David will be there. A lot of the people that were at our Scout IQ event a couple weeks are planning on being there as well. So it's a good event. Get your tickets now because I'm sure they will sell out eventually if he's trying to cap it at 150. So just a little shout out there. Shifting gears for just a second, we talk a lot about selling books, but what books are you currently reading and do you recommend people read? What are you focusing on right now?
I don't read a lot of fiction, but I did start. I'm like halfway through Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, and I am enjoying that book. I like again like historical books. I'm interested in how systems work, how government works, all sorts of stuff like this. So like Thomas Sowell, I think is a amazing intellect of our time period. I'd recommend him. Who else?
He's
Man,
awesome. He's still alive as well. He's getting up there in age, but he's still, I believe he's still alive. I think he's like 98 or something like that now.
yeah, he's phenomenal. So.
I've got his basic economics books right to the left of me here. So
there you go. Nice.
I do.
You know something else. I always enjoyed reading like the Roman philosophers and Greek ones and stuff like that. I did enjoy that kind of thing as well.
Like along the lines of like Stoicism type, like Marcus Aurelius and stuff like that, or?
Oh yeah, I read him. That book really had an impact on my life early on. I actually, are you familiar with John Taylor Gatto, Dumbing Us Down?
I don't think so. I don't think it sounds familiar. Is that a newer?
Yeah. He recently passed. I'll try to make it brief for you. He actually had a home out here, and I got to pick his library, which was incredible. But John wrote about the modern day education system, and I listened to him give a talk on Marcus Aurelius, and it was phenomenal. Like from his perspective, you're reading a work by a guy who everything he laid eyes on, he owned. And he was basically saying the reverse of what maybe the education system says, like, the more marbles you have, win the game. And it's like, yeah, it's not always really about that. It's developing relationships with other people and, different things about happiness. I mean, it was pretty impactful for when I was younger to read. But hey, making money is nice too. It makes life easier too.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I love this kind of Stoicism philosophy, especially Marcus Aurelius' meditations. What I love about it, like you said, he owned everything. So it was really interesting to see his different views he had on life. Yeah. But more so than that, he wasn't trying to write a book. It's things taken from his like private journal where he's talking to himself, which is just, for me, it's really, really cool to be able to get in someone's mind a long time ago and not the polished stuff they were trying to put out there, but just the stuff they're writing to themselves, like the true, honest things they were thinking. I love that authenticity to that, how it wasn't supposed to be a book. It's just a journal of his meditations. And yeah, I love that.
Absolutely. It's such a beautiful thing because the access that we have to when it comes to like knowledge of the past and things like Aurelius, I mean, I believe that only like really kings and stuff had access to that knowledge, like the general public. I don't really believe did until like maybe the printing press came up and everything.
Yeah.
So you get, to read books like this, and I just love it. It's awesome. I agree with you 100%. You're in the mind of this guy.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So
I don't know if you've read this. Let me grab it real fast. Ryan Holiday writes a ton of stuff on Stoicism, but he has this book. It's one of my favorites called The Daily Stoic, 366 Meditations. It goes over Marcus
cool.
Aurelius and a bunch of different ones. They're just single pages, almost like a devotional of sorts where you're supposed to read one each day. But I read that a couple of years ago, and I still read it every once in a while. And it's just great little insights like that each morning. It takes 30 seconds to read, but I love that book. It's still one of the ones I recommend all the time.
That's awesome. Cool. They'll look into that.
Let's see here what else we have. So before we get into the final geek out moment, something that we're focusing on, what question so far stuck out to you as a good question, someone deserving of a hat that you remember there? I don't know if you can see it on the right side. Do you see the comments? Can you see those? Is there a button for comments there?
I wasn't reading them though, because I didn't want to get distracted. So
it's tough to keep both in
I can't do it. Geez, I don't know, Matthew. What do you think? Is there a specific? I do want to address one question I see.
Yeah, go for it.
Damon Stout says, why not just sell everything online? Trust me, I have thought about doing this a lot, but of just going strictly online. It'd probably be more beneficial from a monetary standpoint if I did that. But if you talk to book dealers who have been in this trade for a while, I think what keeps us doing the brick and mortar is really the people. I mean, this little shop has developed its own culture in a way and has provided a platform as well for people to come in. Friendships have been made here. I mean, that's what keeps me in the business and doing a brick and mortar. It's an aspect that kind of goes a little bit further than that until you experience it. I mean, sometimes it is very stressful and trying. I mean, when I started out this business, I'll tell you, there was some real cold nights, and it was painful. It was very painful, but I just kept persevering through it. That's why I don't just go strictly online. The human element, I guess. I enjoy it very much, and I almost feel like if I did that, I'd be letting these people down. They enjoy it so much, and I can't do that to them almost, but. Anyhow, I just wanted to say that.
No, I think that's good. Actually, if you want to just for a second touch the points, if someone likes the idea of starting a physical bookstore, they see what you're just saying, they want that type of thing. What advice would you have to people getting into it on kind of roughly what they should expect and what they shouldn't expect starting a physical actual location, brick and mortar?
I would say if they were going to, it'd be probably best to apprentice under somebody. It'd be smart to do it as a hobby first until the money you're making can actually take over whatever job you have. It's all about cash flow. Well, one of the big things, you got to have that cash flowing in. So I would recommend you take it slow. I just jumped in, and of course, if I didn't just jump in, maybe I wouldn't be doing this. So, use your best judgment, but don't let your emotions get the best of you either. Kind of like I did, where I don't want to close this because I love the people, but whatever, that came with time. Yes, that's what I would say. Don't think that it's going to be easy. It's one of the most difficult things I've done, but it's also been the most rewarding. So I don't discourage anybody from doing it. And if anybody wanted any advice on specific things, I'm always open to trying to help them. But it's probably going to be far more different than you think. So just be ready. Have a little bit of a treasure chest built up so that those difficult months you're going to be okay. But in keep learning. Listen to people and go talk with people who have done it or are doing it, and soak it all in like a sponge. That's what I would and read some business books.
I love that. I think that your point about being an apprentice for someone, I think if you did that for even 2 or 3 weeks, you really, really quickly find out if this is something you're interested in, or if it's, like you said, a romanticized idea that the actual day-to-day stuff, you're like, no, this is nothing. Yeah. So that's, I think, great. Instead of someone buying buying a place, investing in a lease, buying books, and figuring out it's not exactly what they're expecting. I love that. So looking at the comments here, I don't know if you've seen any that stand out to you, but one that stood out to me that I liked, one of the first ones, was this one right here. What's the thing your antiquarian buyers expect that your mass market buyers don't? I thought that was a pretty good comment. Do you have anything else, or do you want to have them be the winner of the...
Looks like Casey's the winner.
All right, let's have Casey be the winner. Casey, if you're still watching this, send a message on Instagram, Matthew Osborne. I think my name is on the screen if I take this off. Oh, OSBORN. Matthew Osborne, Instagram. Shoot me a direct message with your address. I will get one of those hats sent out to you. I'll send one to you too as well, Phil.
Thank you. Matthew, may I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Another aspect about this that is so great is because I saw Mark Corbett in the chat. What's going on, Mark? But what I wanted to say was that, you do become part of community. And one of the things I think is so amazing is that I've also been able to turn people on to reading as well. You know, they're not forced to read books for school anymore. You can pick what you want. So go work your mind a little bit. It's like a muscle. You know what I'm saying? So exercise it. You can learn anything you want in this world. And if you put the right book in somebody's hands, or if a kid comes in and they have a special experience here, they're going to remember that forever. Maybe, and you get them turned on to something, you know, that's beneficial for their mind and creative process. That's another thing that's extremely rewarding that I don't know if you could put a monetary value on, but absolutely. Let's do the geek out moment real fast. Something that you're enjoying right now, something you're focusing on. Doesn't have to be business related. Does something come to your mind that you're just kind of obsessed with at the moment? Man, I don't know. I don't think so. I just kind of do my thing. Like a new hobby or something, or
a new hobby, something in business you're thinking about right now or pursuing, something you're learning, anything along those lines that you're just been focused on recently.
Well, I guess my geek out thing is this new building that I'm trying to purchase. I mean, again, it's related to the business, but I'm so excited. I hope it works out. You know, if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I can't wait to clean it out and get this process moving forward and growing my business. That's what's exciting to me.
So you're actually looking at purchasing the property. That's awesome.
It's a great historical building. So I guess I'll know by the end of this week, and I'll probably do like a YouTube video or something showing it off and what I plan on doing. And so that's what's got me front and center right now.
Yeah, no, that sounds perfect. So would you shift your bookstore into that new building, or would you have both?
Both. I would stage it. That place, I would kind of stage it for people to go in. But that's mainly going to be for processing material. And it's got great space upstairs so I can run card games too.
Nice.
I'm just joking.
It sounds like the perfect space from what you're saying. You should definitely do a video walkthrough when you're able to. That'd be cool to see this space.
Sure. Wish me luck, man. I'm going to try.
I will do. I'll do my geek out moment real fast. So this is not really business related, but somewhat business related. So I was listening to a podcast with Jocko Willink and Jordan Peterson a little while ago. I'm not sure if you know who either of those guys are.
Yep.
But they were talking. Jocko Willink's a Navy SEAL, highly decorated Navy SEAL, really rough, tough guy. But he was talking about his college education and that he decided to do his major in English, which seemed off for someone that did like the career that he had to major in English. But he said something that really hit me and was profound, that you can have all the best ideas in the world, but if you don't know how to communicate those clearly, they're worthless. Because you can have a ton of stuff in your head, but if you can't actually communicate it, it's worthless. It doesn't do anything except for you. And so one of the things he recommended to do with Jordan Peterson as well is to use a tool. I've been using something called essay.app. You can check out that tool there. There's like a free trial of it. But basically, I never write. I wrote in school. I wrote the papers I had to, but after school, I kind of stopped writing. I'd read a lot. I listen to audiobooks, do that, but I don't write. And I think there's something about writing that opens up stuff in your mind that you don't get if you don't write, because it allows you to find clarity in your thoughts. So one thing I've been doing is every single morning when I wake up, I'm just taking like 15 minutes, not a ton of time, I'm not necessarily journaling, but I'm taking time to have a thought and try and communicate that clearly on paper, write it out. And just doing that for 15 minutes has brought me so much clarity. And I've been able to write things out. And once you write it out, you see it in a completely different light. You're like, oh, okay, that actually sounds really stupid. Or, oh, I think I'm onto something here. And so I've been trying to take more time to be able to communicate more effectively, to write a little better than I do currently. And I think that's been a big improvement over the last few weeks, just taking that 15 minutes each day to write something out on paper, because it's not something I really ever did before, unless it was a school paper, something I had to do. So check out that website, essay.app. It's something that helps you kind of organize your thoughts and put them into kind of almost like a paper type format. And it's been beneficial. I recommend people, if you're not writing right now, to just write a little bit and get your thoughts out on paper, and it'll really help clear out your headspace. I think being able to process that.
It's excellent.
Yeah. Any last words? I know I've kept you for a little over an hour now, so I want to be respectful of your time here. Let me see if there's any other questions coming through here, but here, I'll end with this, since we're talking about books. If you had to write a book right now, what topic would you write on?
Oh, what? It'd probably be about my experience selling books. The last however many years. That's what I would do. It'd be kind of like a little memoir, I guess. But
do you have any
I'd
interest in writing a book one day? Is that something on your list?
Well, what I was going to do is I have a website that's going to be, in a month, it's going to be live. I have a friend helping me with it, and I was going to do a little try out a writing blog, and of stories that involve the bookstore and everything. And then who knows, maybe at some point I'll put together a little something, and it'd really be for myself. But if I'm very young in the game, I mean, so the ideas and stuff will probably change, as I get older, and that's fine, but it'd be like a little timestamp for me.
Yeah.
With my experiences.
That's awesome. You should definitely do that. Document that journey. And then, yeah, that could be something pretty powerful in the future once you've collected that all together. How can people get in touch with you, follow you, etc., if they want to learn more about you or talk to you and ask some questions?
Well, you can, I have a YouTube channel called The Book Peddler. I show my book picks, in-store, out-store activity. Sometimes I do a little bit of business selling experience and advice and whatnot. I like showing some of the shop activity. I like going to bookstores, interviewing its bookstore owners. It all surrounds books. So there's that. Then I have an Instagram that's called The Book Peddler of Smithville, which I try to post on once a week, as well as my Facebook page, The Book Peddler. And you just see maybe a special book every week that comes through that I like for whatever reason. And you always have a chance to purchase off of me through these sites. And I will say one thing real quick. The social sites have been extremely beneficial to my business. When I go on a pick and I'm showing off these books, and maybe if these guys out here that are doing their thing want to adopt that as well, I'll get people contacting me immediately that they want to buy that or want more detail on it. And I'm able to recoup my money quite quickly just through YouTube and the specialized books. So
that's awesome. So it's not just the physical storefront. You've expanded to social media, and it's getting traction there as well. I love that.
It's wonderful. I love meeting these people. They're real sweethearts. They're very supportive. A number of them are in your chat, and it's just, I've been able to meet up with them. It's been awesome. No weirdos yet, but I'm sure that'll happen some point.
That's awesome. Well, Phil, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today, sharing your experience. Sometime we'll have to have you back on here, because there's a lot more questions I have in my mind right now, even to ask you. So it'll be exciting to see that new store and what that experience brings for you. So appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much, Matthew. I really appreciate it. It's been wonderful chatting with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. See you guys later.